you can see behind me, but I've picked a different location to start recording this podcast. And you give and you take. I think this looks better visually, but I'm worried it sounds terrible audio-wise. I'm going to go back and listen to it. I'm going to record this. I'm going to go back and listen to it. And I may have to do it again later. I want this to be both a pleasant audio and visual experience. We'll talk a little bit about how I got where I am right now. But this is the Dad Decisions Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Potter. And today we're going to talk a little bit about a couple of keys to being a good dad. It's not that hard. I've made a little list. We're going to go over it. So let's make some dad decisions together. Now, again, if you're looking behind me, if you're watching this, you can see this is more of a room. I don't have a green screen behind me. But unfortunately, the room that I'm sitting in is also kind of like right in the front of my house. And there's no real walls. And so I think it's going to be echoey, unfortunately. But I'm going to go back and listen to this when we're done and try to chop up as much of it as I can, EQ it the best that I can. So those of you that don't watch it on video and you're actually listening to the audio version of this in your car, you're not like, oh my God, it sounds like Mike's talking to me in a cave. So we're going to work on that. I tried to kind of mimic what you see YouTube guys doing. They got the cool little light in the background, maybe something interesting behind them. Guys, I don't know. You've seen so many versions of this now. This is the third time that I've tried to do it on video. And, the first, it was with the kids' blanket behind me the first time. Then I upgraded and I got this tripod and light and all this stuff. And I had a green screen behind me and it didn't really work any better. My good friend Kevin, as you guys have heard me mention before, has been so kind always as to create backgrounds and help me with things to help make it better. Wasn't making it better. So I got up this morning and kind of looked at some of my rooms and thought this room would probably work. But now that I think about it, I need to find a room that has more of a closed space to help dampen some of the sound. So we'll see what we'll see what happens. It's a give and take here. I want it to be a pleasant audio experience. I want it to be a pleasant video experience, but I'm having trouble finding a mixture between where I can get a good audio experience and where I can get a good visual experience for everybody who's going to be interested in watching this. My primary focus is going to be the audio. And if I can't find a good way to do this thing video, then I'm going to push pause on video until I can figure out how to do it better later. And I'm just going to keep cranking out audio content because this feels kind of silly. I realize now I'm still wearing the headphones. Let me take those off so I won't be so bothered by the echo. Now I can't hear it as bad. Well, I hear it because I'm talking in a room and I hear it bouncing around me, but at least I don't hear it in the headphones. Starting my episodes as I always do with a little bit of housekeeping. I have a phone number, 318-373-4488. Call me, text me. I missed a call the other day from another 318 number, and I was excited because I saw there was a missed call, and I went to look at it to see if there was a voicemail, and there was not, unfortunately. But that's okay. We're getting closer. It's better than no calls. Maybe it was the wrong number, but I got a call. Another thing I started to do on social media is I'm really trying to figure out ways to promote this better and, hype it up a little bit, get on social media, say Twitter and Instagram and all those different social medias and kind of say, here I am, here's what I'm talking about. And so one of the things that I've tried to do is connect with other dads, other dad podcasts and things. And again, what I see is when they're doing it video wise, it's in a real room, not with fake screens behind them, or they're really, really good at fake screens, and I just can't tell the difference. That's also likely. That's also very likely. But I noticed as I was sniffing around, the world of dad websites and dad podcasts and things, a lot of dads are a lot of articles, a lot of the focus is on just how to be a better dad. And so I sat down and made a list of, I'm looking at the list. It's 10 things. But even as I made that list, I'm like, a lot of these things are kind of similar. So maybe not all 10 of them we talk about in detail. I'm just going to go down. I'm not going to number them. I'm just going to start talking about them, and we'll see what we land on. I also read that keeping your podcasts under 30 minutes is ideal. You want people to be able to listen on a lunch break, on a short commute, and not make these 45-minute podcasts. I've been trying to do that, so this one might even be shorter. I'm trying to make these nice and easy to listen to the point. Just get out what I need to get out, talk about what we need to talk about, and then we'll move on to the next one. I'm putting out once a week. And so keeping them short so you can listen to them, you can enjoy them on your lunch break, on your car ride, whenever you're doing with that 20, 30 minutes that you have to yourself where you can listen to this. I still want to provide that to you without making you have to come back and listen to more. I've listened to a few podcast episodes that are like 2.5 hours long. And I don't want anybody to have to go through that. I also I'm going to listen to this, but I might do another episode today, and you'll never know that. You'll never know that because I'll do a wardrobe change, a costume change, and you'll be like, wow, maybe this is a completely different day for Mike, and it won't be. I'm going to tell you right now. I'm going to lie to you and tell you it was a different day, but it's not. But maybe it will be. If I go back and listen to this and it was complete garbage, I may just have to erase 30 minutes of my life and act like it never happened. Also a possibility. Representing local business with my shirts. I was kind of thinking about it as I was picking out what t-shirt to wear. I'm like, do I want a shirt with a brand on it that I don't really care about? And then I started to think about it. I'm like, you know what? Even though this brewery isn't open anymore, my buddy Byron had a brewery in San Marcos for a little while, and I love this shirt. It's a comfortable shirt, and it's got a logo on it that supports a small business. It was a friend of mine, though it's not open anymore. I'm going to try not to wear too many corporate things because I'm not trying to give money to the man where the man's not giving any money to me. So let's just keep that real. Getting into the episode a little bit. So I'm going to hit a couple of things here that I feel like are vital to us men being better dads. And they're easy. I'm going to read them. They're all easy. Some of them are very close cousins to each other. You're going to go, kind of sounds like the last one. And like I said, I just sat down and said, well, what do I think are the things? And I'm not saying I'm good at these things, but they're the things that I focus on when I'm trying to decide what I need to do to be a better dad. And sorry, it's making me a little uncomfortable because I'm not sure if I cut my hair off on this version of the podcast. I hope not. I did a couple of tests, so I hope not. So the first thing I have, the first little nugget I have here, I'm not going to number them, but I'll just say the first one. Not number one, but just kind of starting of my list, is to show up and to be present. And that's really, we've talked about this in one of my past episodes, is just showing up and being there for your kids. We talked about Giga Chad on Father's Day and how I didn't think he needed the recognition that us dads do because dads show up. And I think that's a very important first step to the rest of this, because if you're not showing up and you're not present, you're not dedicating some of your time, hopefully a lot of your time, to your kids, then the rest of these don't make any sense. The rest of the things that I wrote down here won't make any sense if you're not at the very least, showing up and being present for your family and for your children. That's dad life, man. We got to show up. You've had a hard day. Maybe you've had a hard week, whatever it is, but you still need to show up for your kids. And so the rest of this list is very, very dependent on the fact that you're even there. So if you hear this first one and you're like, man, I don't show up, well, then stop my episode now. Go ahead and stop it. Do that first, and then come back and listen to this episode later once you've started showing up, and the rest of these things are going to kind of fall into place. Once we've dedicated some time and we're showing up, it's important that you take the time to listen. And I don't mean just hear. I mean listen. Believe me, I've got kids. You've got kids. That's why we call this the Dad Decisions Podcast. We're making dad decisions together, right? And I don't mean just hear them, because believe me, I've got a teenage daughter and I've got what do they call them? Tweens. I've got a tween son, and they want to talk sometimes, and they want to tell you about their day, and they want to tell you about what's going on and what they're feeling. And believe me, you need to listen, because if you don't listen, if you brush them off, they will stop talking to you and you will never know what's going on in their life. Listen attentively. Listen with the intent to understand and to not just to respond, right, but to really absorb what they're feeling, try to be empathetic and understand what they're sharing with you. It could be in reality, it might be something so dumb, but it was big enough that they brought it to you and they want you to understand and talk about it, and you need to listen to it. You need to listen. So you're showing up and you're listening. The next thing on my list here is just to be real, be genuine. We don't sugarcoat things for our kids. When they want to know about something, and I've talked about this in past episodes, we try to talk to them as little humans, right? Little adults where they can get information, where they can make good decisions on their own, actual engaged and information for them so they can be smart about what they're thinking and doing and telling other people. So we always try to be real with them. We try to tell them what we think, at least, is the current situation. And we've done it before. I mean, we don't sugarcoat things for our kiddos. Good news, bad news, whatever it is, we want them to hear what's really going on, and we're real with them. And we bring them what we're feeling also as parents. When they're like, hey, are you and mom in a fight? Or why are you grumpy? Is something going on? Because they'll reach out to you. Again, if you're listening, you'll hear them with their cues where they say, hey, how's this situation? Or what are we doing here? And to be able to respond to them factually and realistic, like, hey, here's what's going on. Your mom and I had a disagreement. It doesn't mean we don't love each other. This is life. This is what you should really expect in life. People argue. People get in disagreements. Not everything sunshine, rainbows, and roses. But that doesn't mean something's wrong. So set realistic expectations for your kiddos and tell them the truth. Tell them what's going on. Be real. Be real. Next thing on my list here is to be patient. Take that deep breath and think about that with me. Be patient. Just last night, perfect example. I come home from work. Lauren had some plans. Whatever. That's beside the point. Sink's full of dishes. Dishwasher hasn't been unloaded. We just made a chore list for them. So they mark down their little list and they can get like a allowance at the end of the week if they do all their chores. And so we did all that. And I'm unloading the dishwasher. I'm washing all the pots and pans. I'm getting pissed off. And then in the middle of me doing all of that, they start wanting dinner. And because it's like 6:30 and they're like, what's for dinner? And I'm like, I don't know, figure it out. Make your own dinner. And so they start making dinner and they're making more and I'm getting irritated. But then that's just me not having patience I had to reflect on that and be like, why am I mad? Like, why am I mad right now? Like, I need to just be patient with them. This isn't fair to them. They're just trying to have dinner. I should probably give them dinner, but they're 12 and 15, so they can figure it out. Having that patience is not easy. After a hard day, you come home, you sit on the couch, and your kids are like, Dad, Mom, can I talk to you about this? You finally get your 45 minutes to actually watch something on Netflix, and they're like coming in every 5 minutes. I need you to sign this thing for school. I need you to do this thing. And it's so easy to just be like, why are you doing this right now? And you lose your patience and you lose your cool. And I'm here to tell you, it's not okay. It's not okay to make a better dad decision and say, and you can, again, going back to being real with them, say, hey, I really want you to be a better manager of your time. And bring me these things earlier in the day. I'll sign them for you today. I want to talk about to you right now, but let's do a better job with this later. We can't do this to mom and dad every day. Because earlier when you were asking if mommy and daddy were going to fight, this makes us short with each other and we're going to fight again. No, I'm kidding. Don't gloom and doom them, but have some patience. Next thing on my list here is to take the time to be, and again, going back to be present. Don't just show up, but make purposeful time. I know it sounds silly and we haven't been good about it. And again, as I mentioned earlier in this episode, this list is the things that I do to make me a great dad. They're things that I know I should be doing to be a better dad. And one of those is taking the time. And so Lauren and I have often said, once a month, I need to have a date night with my daughter, like daddy-daughter date. Take her to a movie, take her to dinner, like spend some intentional time with her. And same with Lauren and Andrew. And we try. We're not great at it. Family game night, like something where you're purposefully taking time out of your day to do nothing but focus on your kids and your family. we make a valiant effort, a very strong effort to have dinner together as a family every night. We sit around the table. It's a little old school. I guess you could even call it supper. We have supper, but we sit down and we do it. We do the same thing my parents did to me when I was a kid, where it's like, how was your day? Anything fun happened today? Anything interesting happened today? What do you want to talk about? How's school? How are your friends? Any girls? Any boys? Whatever that looks like. And I know it's rough for the kids, but that's that intentional time that we have set aside to make sure that we are present, listening, being real, right? Showing some patience and being intentional with our time for our kids. The next thing on my list here, and we're about halfway through it, so thank you for being patient with me, is to teach. All through day, life, hours, months, whatever it is, there are little lessons that can consistently be taught. And it takes a parent, a dad, to take some of these things and make sure that they are lessons. Teach them. So when that thing happens again, they can make some decisions on their own and they don't have to bring it to you. They know what to do. They've been educated. They've been taught on how to handle these current situations or whatever's going on in their lives. They know what to do because you took the time to actually teach them how to do something. And I'll tell you, a lot of times it's easier to just do it yourself than it is to actually teach them how to do it, or just tell them, don't worry about it, and you worry about it rather than teach them about it. Take the time to teach your kids. Now, if you're listening to this and you've got a 1-year-old or a 9-month-old, maybe you're not going to teach them anything right now. But later in life, as they begin to develop and they're starting to experience some of these things in reality and their day-to-day, comings and goings, teach them what's going on. Teach them about what's going on around them. Take the time, be patient, be real, listen to them, and teach them. Teach them about what's going on. You'll thank me later, because the more they know and the more prepared they are to handle things, the less you have to worry about. The more they're going to be able to do on their own, and you'll be comfortable with because you taught them how to do it the right way, right? Next one I have on here is to be a good example. I'm not the best example. I come home pissed off from work, and again, I'm being real with you. This list is what I know I need to be a better dad. I'm not saying these are the things I do, but this is the things I wrote down. It's kind of maybe an inward reflection on myself of the things I need to do to get better at that I think you can too. But lead by example. Be an example to your kids. I want my daughter to grow up and look for a man that treats her the way she sees me treat her mom. I want my son to grow up and want to be the dad and husband and man that I am. And I'm not perfect, but realistically, nobody is. And I want them to know by looking at me that this is an example. I make mistakes. I do the best I can do. I love their mother. I love them. I'm patient with them. I talk to them. I'm kind, right? And by that example, my kids are in these formative years, they're developing who they think they should be or who they think their partner should be later in life. What's going to make sense to them. Guys, you hear in so many instances where somebody's in an abusive relationship, whether physical, mental, whatever, verbal, whatever that looks like. And if you look backwards far enough, you'll probably find out that they grew up in homes that were the same way too. They don't understand a better example of how they should be treating people or how they should be treated. And so I encourage you to be the best you could possibly be and be an example to your children. The next one on my list, and we're rolling through this thing pretty nicely. We're rolling through it nicely. I'm trying to keep this as short as possible. Lunch break episode, short commute episode, maybe even driving to the grocery store episode. The next one I have here is to lead your family. And so the organization I work for, I won't name them just for the sake of whatever that might mean, but they talk about being a leader, not just at work, but at home. Lead your family. Be the rock for your family. And I know that's not easy. We talked on my mental health episode about how there's a lot of stress and a lot of pressure around always having to be the supportive person in your family. And sometimes we need to fall apart too. And you have that maybe through your spouse or through a friend or through a family member. You don't have to be perfect always or strong always, but you do need to lead your family. You need to be aware of what's going on, how to keep your family safe, how to make wise financial decisions, how to make decisions about health. And, you need to lead your family. And think about all these things, right? Being a teacher, setting an example, being patient, all those things, listening and being present. Those are all like leadership qualities. I don't care if you're a boss at work. These are the same things you should be doing with your employees. So if you turn it around and you're going to be a leader at home, these are the same things you need to be doing at home. Lead at home. And I think you know what I'm talking about. If you just come home and you sit on your couch and you crack a beer and you don't pay attention to anybody, you're not leading at home. If your kids come to you and you're ignoring them, you're not leading at home. If on the weekends you can't be bothered because all you want to do is watch sports, you're not leading at home. So I encourage you to lead your family and be that guiding light for your family so they know the direction that you're going in. Be proud of that and lead your family. Last couple things on the list, I promise. And then I'm going to go back and watch this and probably go, that was terrible and it sounds like garbage, so let's just throw it in the trash can. Or maybe I just release it and you have to go, well, Mike, it was episode 14, so we can't expect too much out of you. But if it was episode 114, you should have it perfected by now, and I appreciate your honesty with me. The next one is to kind of set a foundation, right? So again, a lot of these are close cousins, but if you go to being an example, you go to leading your family, you really are setting a foundation for how your sons and daughters are going to be in the coming years when they get a family, when they get married, when they have children, when they have relationships, whatever that means, you're setting the foundation for that right now. Not only for how they're going to be parents, but how they're going to be people, how they're going to spend money, how they're going to be honest, how they're going to treat others. You're setting that foundation today, and you need, again, by leading your family and being a good example, set the foundation for how your kids are going to be later in life. It's invaluable for you to take the time to actually do that, and I would encourage you to do it. Lead by example. Be the best you can be. It's not easy, but you're setting that foundation for your family. The last official one that I have on my list, and how are we doing on time? Man, I'm really rocking and rolling this one. The last one I have on my list is your kids aren't you. They're not you. And I know that sounds a little like cliche, but they're not you. Just because you played football doesn't mean your kid needs to play football. Just because you're a musician doesn't mean your kid needs to be a musician. Just because they were good at something and then you expect them to be good at it as well. Your kids aren't you. They're not. They're their own people. And I think it's important that you let them be their own people. Help them find things that they're successful with or they're good at, but don't discourage them from that thing because you expect them to be you. They're not you. And I think you can look at your kids today and then maybe they remind you of you when you grew up, but they're not you. And don't fool yourself. Expecting them to be you is going to push them further away from you. So they're not you. Give up on that. If you've got a child that is a little unathletic, you shouldn't be forcing them to play sports just because you played sports and that's what you want your kids to do. Now, you do have to introduce your kids into things, and sometimes we do have to encourage them to stick with it and not quit. My kids are the same. Andrew plays the trumpet. I was in band when I was growing up, and believe me, if you get a new assignment and it's to play a certain note or a certain scale and you're like, this is dumb, I quit, then we also need to be behind them to go, we don't quit, and encourage them to stay and do whatever and to continue to make progress and to work. But it shouldn't be making them do things that they don't want to do just because that's what you did. Don't live vicariously through your children. They're not you. So take that however you want to take it. Your kids aren't you. They're not going to be you. And if you're trying to make them be you, they're probably going to fail at that. And they're going to keep that continuing through when they raise kids. Again, not setting the example. Introduce your kids to things that you may find joyful, but then later let them be themselves. Short story. My dad was a big time cowboy. And I mean, we had horses, cows. I was riding and roping and doing all of those things well before I was probably even in school. That was a big part of how I was raised. And we wore Wranglers and we rode in the truck and we had cowboy hats. And I mean, I've got family photos where we're all wearing like matching brush poppers and like we grew up country. And that's how my dad was raised, and that's how he wanted to raise his kids. And there was a point, probably in junior high, where I said, this ain't me, man. Like, this ain't me. I loved my dad, but this ain't me. And it wasn't easy for my dad to hear that, but he, willingly or not, accepted the fact that I'm not him. And he let me, stop wearing Wranglers, explore some different music, like kind of become who I knew I wanted to be. And he had to understand that I wasn't him. It didn't mean he loved me less. It didn't mean I loved him less. It just mean that I'm not him. And don't let the mustache fool you. I'm not him. And I think that's important, that when your kids are trying to be who they feel like they're supposed to be, you let them do it and support them and love them and show them that it's okay to be who you are. And I'm not trying to make you who I am. Last one, and then I'm going to let you guys go, is don't take yourself so seriously. Have some fun with your kids. One of the best things a dad can ever do, is to embarrass the hell out of your children. Have some fun. I can't tell you how many times Olivia's been on her little FaceTime with her little boyfriend in her room. I hear him in there, so I make sure to go in with my shirt off and my gut pooched out as far as I possibly can in the background. It's kind of rubbing my tummy and just be like, hey, you talking to your boyfriend? I mean, it's fun. Or if you haven't crop dusted your children, are you really even a dad? Don't take yourself so seriously. Nobody else takes you that seriously. If they do, then you're just being mean. Have some fun with your kids. You'll play outside, wrestle with them, joke with them, be dorky, be fun, take adventures, do things with them. Don't take yourself so seriously. I promise nobody else is taking you that seriously. If they are, they're just scared of you. But don't take yourself so seriously. Enjoy these years. I read something the other day that said by the time your child is 18 years old, they've already spent like 90% of the time they're going to spend with you. So enjoy these times until they're 18 or whatever it is, because then they're going to get families and you're only going to see them twice a year, like Thanksgiving, Christmas, and maybe get a phone call on your birthday. So if you're wasting all this time between now and 18 being this strict asshole, those are the memories your kids are going to have of you. And they're not going to see you very often, so you don't have a good opportunity to make those impressions again. So don't take yourself so seriously. But that wraps up my little list here. Showing up, being present, listen to your children, be real with them, be patient with them, take some purposeful time to spend with them and your family, teach them how to address certain things and how to be an example, lead your family, set that foundation for their future. Your kids are not you, so stop trying to make them you or being disappointed in them when they're not you, and don't take yourself so seriously. Dads, that wraps up this episode. I don't even know how long it was. I know it was shorter than 30 minutes. I'm going to go back and listen to it. Maybe this never gets released because of all the echo that's going on around me. Maybe I find a cool trick and I can figure out how to take that echo out. But it's a give and take here, the Dad Decisions podcast. We're trying to make some dad decisions together. I hope you have a great week. I'm excited for everything that's going on in my life. I hope you're excited for everything that's going on in yours. Find the joy in everything that happens to you every day. And I'll talk to you soon.